I'm going to show you a remote starter installation on a 2004 Chevy Silverado. Now, we used to have a T-harness for this vehicle. We can no longer get the harness. We only have a couple left for prototyping purposes. We're always trying to get this harness made again at some point if possible. What we're going to do is we're going to do the warmcarnow.com simplified solution. We're going to be able to start the vehicle from the OEM remote. And we're going to be able to start the vehicle with the controller of your choice. One of the controllers that we're going to be using today is the 5-button controller from an RS4 remote starting system by Crime Stopper. We're also going to connect the Crime Stopper My Car smartphone controller. This will allow you to control the vehicle from your smartphone. We'll be able to lock, unlock, and start the vehicle, as well as GPS tracking for the vehicle. This product can be purchased at warmcarnow.com. Follow the link in the corner of your screen. We're in a 2004 Chevy Silverado. I'm going to do my semi-plug-and-play remote start installation with the Crime Stopper RS4 G5. We're going to go ahead and start by disassembling the vehicle. 2 7mm screws underneath the dash. Going to remove the 2 screws. We've got a plastic tool. We're going to pop the side cover, the fuse box off also. We're going to go ahead and we're going to remove the dash. Going to grab it. Sometimes we got to remove the top piece a little bit and just unsnap it here. Give a little room for the dash to come off. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to release it. They can be stubborn. Normal. Once we have the dash off, we're going to take a 10mm, remove these 4 nuts, and remove this cover plate right here. Before we take this cover plate off, if you notice, there's more room up at the top, so we'll probably keep most of our connections up at the top of the harness rather than down low where it gets tight with this cover plate. I'm going to remove the cover plate. We're going to use our knife and we're just going to cut the tape, being careful not to cut any conductors or cut into the insulation of any conductors either. We're going to separate our ignition wires. We're looking for the starter wire, ignition 1. We have 2 power wires, and we also have an accessory wire. We're going to locate all of our wires and separate them from the rest of the wires that are unneeded. Up here we have our ignition 2 and we have our accessory wire. They follow a different path than the power wires, starter, and ignition 1. They go straight down into this plug, whereas ignition 2 and accessories go over the top into the fuse box. So we're going to be dealing with these wires. My harness is color matched, so my ignition colors will match these ignition colors on the vehicle. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. We're going to use posi taps for this installation. These are reusable connectors that do not require any tools or any soldering. We're going to slip this groove onto the wire, then we're going to screw this point into the wire, and we're going to be able to make our connection by sliding our wires into this collar and tightening the collar down on the wires. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to keep our taps up, as I've already stated in the first part of the video. We're going to keep them up around this point on the harness, right about here. We're going to apply the posi taps to the red wire with a white stripe. This is one of our constant power wires. Now we're going to go ahead and do the solid red wire. Now these connectors are also reusable. I'm going to stagger them around a little bit so there's not a big clump when we're done. And we're going to screw them down tight and make sure they lock onto the wire. They're a little bit big, but they make a nice connection, and they're totally reusable. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use these. These are going to be an option that you can select when purchasing this system. And again, the nice thing about them is I can take them off, I can unscrew them, pull them off, and the wire is undamaged, and we can go ahead and we can move them to a different spot or reuse them on a different wire. So we have 4 of our 6 wires connected here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get the other 2. So I'm kind of going to face them all the same way. We're on the ignition 2. It's white. Sometimes it can appear yellow because of discoloration. And then we're on our accessory wire, which is solid orange. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to loosen the collars on each of these posi tabs, getting them ready to accept our stripped primary wires. Okay, we're going to go on. We're going to identify a couple other connections. Okay, so our parking light connection is going to be made at the BCM. There's a brown plug here at the BCM. If you look, the color of the plug is brown. We're going to go ahead and we're going to remove some of the tape. Now we're going to want to make this connection to the parking lights, and what we're going to do is we're going to keep it back a little bit because we have that cover plate that's going to touch the wires about in this position here. So we're going to be back here. The wire that we want is gray with a black stripe, and it's located at the second pin in here. And when I'm done, I will give you a close-up. If you look at it right here, it's gray with black. There's a yellow at the corner pin. It's the next pin in. We're going to go ahead. We're going to apply a posi tap to this wire also. So this time we're going to use a blue posi tap. You may get a red posi tap for this. I'm undecided of which gauge posi tap I will supply for this. So we're going to go ahead, we've put the blue posi tap on. Now we're going to locate the brake wire. 2 spots for the brake on this. Sometimes the brake comes down through this harness that runs down behind the diagnostic plug. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cut a little bit of the tape away here. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to look through these wires here, and we're going to find our brake wire. Okay, we've pulled a light blue wire out of this, and this wire usually is here if the vehicle doesn't have electric pedals that move up and down. We're going to go ahead and put our test light on it. We're going to press the brake, and the light's going to light. If you cannot find the brake wire here, there's an alternative location. I don't like to use this wire because it actually moves with the pedal, and anything that moves I don't like to use. This is a brake signal also. You can put your test light on this wire, press the brake, and verify that it is the brake. Okay, the last wire we're going to get is the violet wire located at the diagnostic plug. It appears to be at pin number 2. We're going to go ahead, we're going to move a little tape, and we're going to put a posi tap on this wire also. Okay, we're going to use a red posi tap on this. We're going to go ahead and we're going to undo the posi tap. We're going to slip the wire in the groove. We're going to apply the posi tap. We're going to screw it down nice and tight so the pin penetrates the wire. We're going to loosen the collar so this tap will accept our wire. Okay, we have our primary harness. If you notice, it's color matched to match the colors of the vehicle. We're going to go ahead and we're going to make our connections. I like to run the primary harness down behind here when I do the job. I like to get this primary down in here and then pull it over the vent this way. So we're going to come up on this side and make our connections here, while our primary harness is going to hang down here. So we put it through the vent and we've slid it down into this side. And I can show you in reverse here. Under the vent, slide it down this way, and we're going to come up with all the rest of the wires that come up through here like this. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. We're going to go ahead with our accessory wire, which is orange. We're going to loosen the collar. We're going to put the wire into the collar, push it in firmly, hold it in while we tighten the collar. Then we're going to pull on our connection to make sure it's strong. We're going to go ahead with our white wire. We're going to simply match our colors. This is our ignition 2. And remember, these are the two harnesses that don't follow the main harness. So we're getting our ignition 2 and our accessory in that harness. We're going to go ahead and we're going to grab one of our main power wires. Again, we're going to push in firmly, tighten the collar, and we're going to grab our other main power wire. Now we're going to grab our starter wire, which is yellow. We're going to go ahead and we're going to push it into the collar, tighten the collar, and then we're going to get our ignition 1 or our pink wire into our collar here. Okay, we have a good connection on all of our wires. We're going to kind of keep them out of this moving apparatus, and we're going to loop them around and come out this way. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get the next connections that we have. Our gasoline engine pickup truck here, we're only going to really need 3 connections and a ground. We're going to get tax signal and things like that through the module. We're going to route this harness the same way. We're going to put it down through here. We have an optional hood pin switch wire banded up. It's gray. We're just going to leave it banded. If you choose to do a pin switch, you have to run this wire through the firewall and install a pin switch. So we're going to follow the same path. We're going to parallel these harnesses, which means we're going to even up the ends, and then we're going to zip our secondary harness to our main harness. Okay, we've paralleled the harnesses. We're just going to apply a couple zip ties to hold them in place. So, like I said, we have the ends even. It's ready to accept the remote start control module. We're going to make our connections here. You can kind of get a better shot at our posi taps. Our intentions are going to be to loop these back around kind of gracefully so we don't have a sharp bend, and we're going to zip tie them to the wires here on the main ignition harness. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put one zip on now, and we're going to see how it looks here. Okay, so we're going to do that, and you see we're back in the loop here, and we have our wires coming down here. We're going to keep them away from the cover piece. I'm going to temporarily ground the ground to one of the studs that we used here for the removal of the cover plate. There actually is a good spot under behind the diagnostic plug that I'll show you that we can ground it at also. Okay, so here's the ground point we're going to temporarily use. We're going to put a nut on that. Again, behind the diagnostic plug, there's a couple studs there that are part of the structure of the vehicle with no plastic in between. You can also use these two 10mm bolts here for grounding purposes. Okay, one of the connections I haven't talked about is the optional horn connection. That too can be gotten up here at the BCM. Actually, on the first plug, there's a couple of black wires. We have to test them. We're going to touch them or probe them with our test light, and the horn will sound when we have the correct wire. So we pulled a black wire, and we probed that with no results. So now we're going to probe the second black wire, and we have the horn going off. I'm going to give you a better view of this when we're done. It's a little dark right here and hard to see. But we're on the first plug, and it's a black wire here. There are multiple black wires, so it has to be tested. I'm going to try to get you a pin location in a minute. So we're going to apply a posi tap to the horn wire also. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to unscrew the tap, place it around the wire, and screw in the actual part that pierces the wire. Okay, the collar's loosened, ready to accept our connections. Okay, we've pulled the tape off. We're looking for the black wire. If you can see, there's where the pin is, down in here. Looks like it's about the third pin over from the left side here. Or it would be the right hand side. So we're looking here, our wire is the third pin over. It's a black wire, and it's best that you test every wire to make sure you're making the proper connections. Okay, we've rounded our parking light and our horn wire down where it's going to come up behind the main harness, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to loosen the collar, insert our wires into the posi tap, and tighten the collar. Pull on the wire to make sure we have a good solid connection. Should not be able to pull the wire out of the posi tap. We're going to go ahead and do our horn connection. Again, putting a good amount of force on these wires and they're not coming out. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to route our brake wire down underneath and above the parking brake release cable over to our brake switch. And again, we're going to go ahead and we're going to place the wire in our posi tap. Okay, we've loosened the collar and we're going to go ahead and we're going to insert our wire into the end of the collar. Tighten the collar down, and we're going to pull on it to make sure it actually has made a connection and is in there firmly. Okay, we also have an orange wire here that would be labeled diagnostic. That goes to the violet wire at the back of the diagnostic plug. We're going to go ahead and we're just going to route our wire up over the parking brake release cable. And we're going to insert it into our collar, just like all the other wires. I'm going to make sure that all the strands are going in the collar. I'm going to push it in firmly, and then we're going to tighten the collar and pull on it to make sure it's in there. Now we're ready to plug in our equipment and test our system. Okay, our system is going to be able to activate the remote starter through the OEM remote, and we're going to use 2 of the 5-button remotes. We're going to go ahead and we're going to plug in our equipment if it's not plugged in already. I'm going to plug in the primary harness. We're going to plug in the secondary harness. We're going to make sure our data cable is plugged in on the back of the unit into our iDataLink data port. And we're going to make sure the antenna is plugged into the correct port, which is on the same face as the primary, secondary program button and the antenna. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do our ignitional programming for our immobilizer codes. We have our iDataLink module already programmed and ready to go. What we're going to do is we're going to place the key in the ignition, turn the ignition to the run position. When we do this, the module is all set to accept programming of the vehicle. So the light will be red, and then it will go green and then go out. This indicates that the programming is complete. If it goes red and doesn't change to green, start the vehicle with the key and it will complete programming. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to program a tachometer reference into our system. The system will work in tackless mode, we cannot get a tachometer signal through data with a Duramax diesel. If you have a Duramax diesel and you've ordered this, you must pull the instrument cluster and connect to the glow plug wire and the tachometer signal behind the instrument cluster. So this is a gasoline engine. We can obtain tach through data. So we're going to start the engine with the key. We're going to press our program button 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to get a 5 honk and 5 light flash confirmation. We're going to wait for this to occur. We're going to press the program button 1 time to go to feature number 1. The horn will honk, the unit will click to give us a confirmation. At this point, we're going to press the brake pedal, and the unit will honk the horn and accept the tachometer programming. We'll release the brake pedal and shut the key off. Now, we could skip this step, but it's a good thing to do to make the remote starter more reliable. It can determine the engine speed through the iData Link module. Okay, we're outside of our vehicle, and this customer's remote's pretty hammered, but I still activated 3-press for him, even though he's requested a replacement remote. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to lock the doors 3 times. This will trigger remote starting. The vehicle's lights will come on. About 5 to 6 seconds later, the engine will crank, the vehicle will start and run. We can also shut the vehicle down. Now we're going to activate the remote starter with our remote. We can do this by pressing and holding the key button. This will also activate remote starting of the vehicle. So we're going to let it start. And now we're going to shut it off. And I'm going to show you some of the other features we have here. We can lock the doors. Pressing it once will lock all the doors. Pressing it twice will lock the doors and give a honk confirmation. We can unlock the vehicle. Pressing the unlock button once will unlock the driver's door. Pressing it again will unlock the passenger door and give us a 2-honk confirmation. It will also hold the parking lights on, lighting your way to the vehicle. It will hold this parking lights on for 30 seconds. That feature can be overridden through programming. And we have a panic feature. By holding the lock button down, we will activate the panic. Pressing the lock button again will turn off the panic. And we still retain our 3-press capabilities. Okay, another thing that we can do with this unit, which is really, really nice, is we have a dedicated telematic smartphone port for smartphone controller. And we also have what's called the My Car unit here that I sell. You can find this on the bottom of my homepage at warmcarnow.com. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to install this. I'm going to show you how easy this is. This comes to you, if you buy it from me, all set up and ready to just plug into the side of your unit. We'll plug into the telematic port. When we do this, the lights will come on the My Car. We'll start searching for a cellular and GPS signal. The unit is labeled. We're going to put the side labeled this side downward, and we're going to set this up on the steering column, and we're going to let it acquire a cell phone signal. So I'm going to show you how our smartphone app works with the system here. Now, the picture can be changed to your vehicle. We're going to go ahead and we're going to lock the doors using the smartphone controller. You see the doors of the vehicle will lock. We'll get a confirmation that the doors are locked. We're going to go ahead and we're going to unlock the doors. And there we have our unlock command being sent to the vehicle. We're going to start the vehicle. Now that's confirmation the vehicle has received the signal. It's going to start, it's going to give you a runtime indication right there. The runtime is 20 minutes. So it's going to start a runtime countdown. If you see on the bottom, we can also locate the vehicle using a GPS locator built into the My Car unit. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to shut the vehicle down. Perfect upgrade for this system if you already have it. If you want to buy it, you can find the My Car located at the bottom of my homepage at warmcarnow.com. Okay, we're in the vehicle and we're looking at running this antenna. Big problem with a lot of these trucks is the headliner is glued in with the window urethane, making it impossible to fish the wire through here. This job is in my shop and it really sucks. Sometimes you can get it and you can pull on it and get it to separate, but depending on the condition of the headliner, it could be dry rotted too. Looks like this one is glued to about here and we're not going to be able to release it. The only thing I can do for this guy is put the antenna over here, which I hate to do. But this is an alternative location to mount this antenna. Otherwise, the best spot is in a downward position over by the rear view mirror, not in the field of view of the driver, of course. So I like to put it on the passenger side about an inch down. Not going to be possible here. I mean, we can get the headliner to move here, but we're not going to get past here. You see what it'll fold like it just did right there? So we're not going to mess with this guy's headliner anymore. Have to mount the antenna here. Okay, we can stuff our plastic tool down in here and move his lights. We can stuff our plastic tool down in here and kind of get this to release by pulling outward. Again, kind of a pain. We can take the whole piece out also by unclipping it and then moving upward with it. Being here pretty tight. You know what? I'm going to leave this here. Just going to route our wire down through here, have it come out under the dash, and meet up with a remote starter. Okay, so we've kind of got our wire up in here, and we're going to run it down through here to meet the remote starter. Going to make sure we have enough to get this up in the corner here, and we're going to go ahead and reclip the trim. I've cleaned the windshield. Going to remove the tape protector, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to stick the antenna right here. Alternate mounting location. Again, preferred is over by the mirror. Okay, we're up under the dash. I'm trying to give you a view of the zip up. The unit's up here. You can see the wires coming out of the unit. We've done a small loop here to take up some of the slack down behind here, and you got to watch it. None of this gets up in the emergency brake mechanism. If we look over here, we have our iData-Link wire going to the violet wire on the diagnostic plug. We have our brake connection here, so that's the routing for those wires. Okay, now again, one more time, I'm going to show you all the connections that we have here with our posi taps, a color matched harness. We're going down through, we're going through here with our harness. Here's our horn wire, here's our parking light wire. We're on the brown plug, and we're on the second plug in here on the end for our horn wire. Our ground is here, and we're ready to button things up. I'm going to show you another important thing on reassembly. The bottom of this cover plate, there's a protective piece of rubber material or vinyl here. Make sure this stays on, or you need to wrap this with something if you lose it or don't have it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to reinstall this cover piece, and we did remove our temporary ground, and I'm going to ground it back to the same spot. So I'm going to show you basically how it'll look after and how much clearance you'll have, you know, if you lay the installation out right. Once we get two nuts on here, this will stay. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to apply this cover, replace it here, the assembly. Okay, we started everything by hand. We don't want to strip anything out. Now the reason this has to stay in here is because these wires are going to come out. So we want this piece here intact. Our wires come under here when they come around and go up to the ignition. If we look through the top up here, you know, we can look down in there and make sure we have no interference with the shifting linkage. Okay, now we're looking down through the gap underneath the metal piece, and we just want to make sure that we're not going to interfere with the shifting linkage. Everything looks good because we stayed up higher when we applied our taps. Okay, we also want to move the wheel through its range of motion with the tilt, and notice the harness is moving a little bit underneath. So you want to leave a little slack because when you do tilt the wheel, things are going to move around in there. And we can check our clearances through the top, again, while we're tilting the wheel. We don't want the wires too tight that they're pulling when we're doing our tilt mechanism.